guys, it's week 2 of remote learning. This lesson's going to go with the April 27th packet. It's going to correlate to the page that looks like this, but I'm not actually doing this page with you. This page talks about equivalent fractions. If we see here, it says each shelf holds 3 bones and at least 2 equal length bones should be on each shelf. So it wants 2 bones that are equivalent or equal, and these are in fractions, so it's talking about equivalent fractions. We're going to do a lesson today that's also on equivalent fractions, but it's not going to be from this page. So let's go. The work we're doing today, like I said, is going to be on equivalent fractions, but the page is going to look a little bit like this. It should be simple enough that you can draw it very quickly and we can do it together. So let's go ahead and start. On Wednesday, Caleb said he swam 1/2 of a mile. Mary swam 3/6 of a mile. Ellen swam 4/8 of a mile. And Addison swam 2/4 of a mile. Caleb said, "We all swam the same distance and are tired." Is what Caleb said true? Use the line markers and number lines below to prove if what Caleb claims is true or false. Really quickly before we get started, let's look at this word right here. We've talked about it in school before, but it's been a minute since we've been in school, so let's talk about it. What Caleb claims. So Caleb said that we all swam the same distance and we are tired. Is what he said true? We're going to prove if Caleb's claim is true or false. His claim is what he says, what he thinks is true. We need to figure out if it's actually true or not. So a claim is like an opinion that you believe to be true. For example, I claim that purple is the best color. That's not necessarily a fact, it's more of an opinion. But I could also claim that 2 + 2 is 4, and you could prove that to be true. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So what they said is to use the lane markers. So let's pretend that this is a pool, and the starting line is right here, and the 1 mile lane is right here. That would be a really big pool to be 1 mile long or more, but hey. We're going to use the lane markers, which are these things I just showed you, and we're going to prove if Caleb's claim is true or false. So first, let's go ahead and put Caleb's length swam on the number line. So I'm going to look at Caleb's denominator, and I see it's 1 out of 2. So I know it's not 1.5 miles. I know it's just 1/2 of 1 mile. So I know it goes somewhere between 0 and somewhere between 1. And I happen to know that with that denominator being 2, it means my total pieces is 2. So I have 1 piece here and 1 piece here. So my line's actually already here for it. And I'm going to go ahead and draw 1/2. See, this is 1/2 of a mile. And this is 1/2 of a mile. So if he swam 1/2 of a mile here and 1/2 of a mile here, he would have swam 2 halves of a mile. So 1 would be equal to 2 over 2. But he swam 1/2 of a mile. Okay, so now let's do Mary. We see that Mary swam 3/6 of a mile. I know that 3/6 of a mile is somewhere between 0 and 1 because there's no whole number. So I have to figure out where between 0 and 1 is the length that she swam. So I have to cut it into 6 parts. So I know that if I'm going to cut it in 6 parts, I'm going to cut it in the half first, and then that makes it into 2 parts. So I have 4 more parts I need to cut it into. So I'm going to put 2 on each side. 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. Let's see if that works. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this would be 6. So here to here, that's 1/6. From here to here is 2/6. From here to here is 3/6. From here to here is 4/6. And from here to here is 5/6. And here is 1. And we know that 1 whole is equal to 6/6. Let's go ahead and put a shape to show how far they both swam. So I know that Mary swam to 3/6, which is right there. And I know that Caleb swam 1/2. What do I notice about those two lengths? I know that 3/6 does not look like 1/2 with the numbers, but the amount that they swim looks pretty similar. So Caleb said that they all swam the same distance. Right now, his claims looks like it might be true, but we still have 2 other people to go. So let's go ahead and do Ellen. We see Ellen swam 4/8 of a mile. All right, so let's go ahead and plot Ellen. Here's 0 and here's 1. I know that I need to chop this into 8 pieces because my denominator, which is the total amount of pieces, is 8. So my 1's not just going to be 1, it's going to be equal to 8 out of 8. So I know that if this is 8 out of 8, then this has to be halfway, which means 4 out of 8. So if this is 4/8 and 4/8, I need to draw 3 lines in here to get to the 4. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I can go ahead and count, but I don't know if I really need to. So instead of drawing all of this stuff and talking through it, we can see already that this is 4/8. Let's double check by counting. 1/8, 2/8, 3, 4/8, 5, 6, 7, and 8/8. So I already know how far he swam. He swam 4/8. So I'm gonna put a bar right there just to show us how far he swam. And right now it's looking like Caleb's claim is spot on. So let's keep going. We see that Addison swam 2/4 of a mile. We know that this is 1 mile, and she swam 2/4 of it. So that means I need to cut this mile into pieces. Do we remember what number we look at to figure out how many pieces we cut it into? We look at that denominator. Remember the numerator tells us how many out of the total, but the denominator tells us the total. So we are going to look at this 1, and it's not going to be 1 whole. It's going to be 4 out of 4 pieces of a whole. So if we have 4 out of 4 pieces of pizza, we have a whole pizza. Or if we swam 4/4 of a mile, we swam a whole mile. But Addison didn't swim a whole mile. She swam 2 out of 4. And we know between 0 and 4, the halfway mark would equal 2 out of 4. So we could go ahead and put 1 right there and 1 right there because we have 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. I'm not going to label it because we already have what we need. So I'm just going to plot how far she swam. All right, so let's take a look and see if Caleb is right. Caleb said that they all swam the same distance. Now we know Caleb swam. Let's write right next to it. Caleb swam 1/2. Mary swam 3/6. Ellen swam 4/8. And Addison swam 2/4. And Caleb said that they all swam the same distance. So now that we're done, let's look at this bottom question here. Together, how many kids would it take for a total mile swam to be 1 mile? So that's asking me, how many kids do I need for a total distance to be 1? So I know that 1/2 plus 1 more half equals 2 halves or a whole. So I think that would be how I'd find my answer. You could also do it this way if you wanted to do some extra work. You could do 1/2 plus 3/6 and we would have to find denominators that were the same and change our numerators. I personally would rather work smarter and not harder and know that this kid swam half a mile, this kid swam half a mile. Together, they would have swam a whole mile. And also, I'm just going to throw this in. I would like for you to pause the video after I ask this next question. If we added together all of the miles swam, what would the total number be? I would like for you to comment below, or if you drew this, text that to your teacher or email it to your teacher. Hey guys, I would like for you to take what you just learned to apply it to a new problem. I created the problem that I'm about to show you, and I would like for you to do it, copy it down, and show your teacher somehow, whether that's texting it to her, emailing it, or showing up during an office hour. I'll talk about my office hour at the end of this video. But go ahead and copy this down and see if you can do what we talked about today. So let me go ahead and read the problem to you. All right. 4 students were comparing their toy dinosaur bones that they got from a museum. They want to know whose bone is the biggest and whose bone is the smallest. But the measurements of the bones are in fractions of a yard. Draw the length on a number line and then make a claim to whose is the largest and whose bone is smaller or the smallest. I want you guys to think back in the last problem we talked about Caleb's claim that they all tied, and in this one you're trying to figure out 2 things. You're making a claim about whose is bigger and whose is smaller. So like I said, go ahead, do this problem, and find a way to get it to your teacher so that they can give you some feedback on it. If you want some assistance with what you've seen in this video, go to your teacher's office hour. Mine is a Zoom room from 1 to 2. Anyone's welcome to it. I'll put the meeting ID down below. I would love to give you some feedback and learn what you thought of this lesson. I hope you found this interesting. I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.